Well, here we are. We're live.
Oh, we are live.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Where are you joining us from? Write us in the comments. Usually, the SM audience joins us from all over the world. Most people listen to us maybe from the States and from Italy. That's where most of them connect from. But we are present all over the world, and I imagine at least dozens of countries.
We love lots of friends in England.
Yeah,
that's true as well.
Nice.
That's great.
In England, in the States,
Germany, in Mexico, in Argentina.
There are a high percentage of Mexican friends here at Salon de la Musique. It's fantastic. It's amazing how classical music can, link people and connect people.
We will arrive also in North Korea.
Yeah.
One day.
As soon as North Korea arrives, sort of where the rest of the world is.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
We will be the first one to arrive in North Korea.
So I think we've given people enough time to join so we can start the episode off in earnest. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to this Salon de la Musique live Meet the Artist episode. My name is Nicholas Stark, and your hosts today are Anna Bolkina, Francesco Comito, and Antonia Comito.
Hello, guys. Yes. Hello, everyone.
Well, our guest is Dinara Klinton.
Hello. Very nice to be here. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you for joining us, Dinara. I'm going to brag a little bit on your behalf so our audience can learn more about you before we head into this episode. So, Dinara's busy international concert schedule has taken her all around the world, where she has performed at many of the world's most prestigious concert venues, from the Royal Festival Hall in Wigmore, London, to the Sumida Triphony Hall in Tokyo. Her concerto engagements include, among many others, the Philharmonia, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, and the St. Petersburg Philharmonic Orchestra. Dinara combines her performing career with piano professor positions at both the Royal College of Music and the Yehudi, is that correct? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Yehudi Menuhin School.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that one more time, the Yehudi Menuhin School.
Exactly.
As a recording artist, she has received widespread critical acclaim. Her album of Liszt Transcendental Etudes, released by the German label Genuine Classics, resulted in dazzling reviews and was selected by BBC Music magazine as Recording of the Month. Dinara recorded her debut album, Music of Chopin and Liszt, at the age of 16 with the American label Delos. Her latest album, her fourth, is Prokofiev Complete Piano Sonatas, released by Piano Classics. That's quite a resume, Dinara, and I'm sure our audience now wants to hear more from you. So I'm going to hand the microphone off to Anna. She can start off our round of questions. Anna, take it away.
Hello. Hi, Dinara. I'm so excited to see you, even if it's online. For our audience, we know each other personally as well. But before I ask you questions, I just wanted to share with our audience that I heard Dinara's name even before we met, like personally. I heard her then. Her performances in Moscow. And then we met personally when she visited my hometown, Rostov-on-Don, with the, I believe you played Rhapsody, Rachmaninoff.
Yeah, it was Paganini Rhapsody.
Yeah. So I remember that I heard about you, like that girl that played Fille Follet, and I think that you were like 12 or 13 years old at that time, and I was like, wow, Fille Follet, 13 years old is just like crazy, amazing. And then when I heard you first time, you played in Central Music School. You played the first movement of Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto with your teacher. What is his last name?
Valery Pisetsky.
Valery Pisetsky, exactly. Yeah, so he was accompanying, you were like playing at the closure of his, studio concert. And I remember that I was like, my jaw dropped.
Mine as well.
I was
the
like,
first time I attempted to play that one, so I remember, I was very stressed myself. So.
that was like, you just bored me with that performance. So Mikael just mentioned your CDs where you were recording for all complete etudes by Chopin, and then 12 transcendental etudes by Liszt, including Fifole. Then you recorded entire set of Prokofiev piano sonatas. So my question is, how did you manage to prepare for each of these recordings? Because it's a humongous program. Each of these programs for these CDs is it's a very long journey for each, like for everyone. But
how many hours of music do you know off the top of your head?
Well,
quite a bit, yeah. So one CD is about 60 to 70 minutes, and so
and so this Prokofiev sonatas is like 3 CDs, so
it's more than 3 hours of music. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you prepare every time for those milestones?
Hardly, I have to say. Well, it's always been a problem. Well, when you mentioned the Fefele, which I started learning quite early, as I said, I was about to say that it was actually much easier back then, because when we are students, when we are in our, let's say, even like teenage, all our energy and all our focus is shifted to actually perfect ourselves and to practice our repertoire, and everything's working towards that. When you become an adult, unfortunately, there are so many things which we need to look after, that we need to keep under control. So then practice time becomes a luxury thing. So, when people ask me how many hours do I practice now, I tend not to answer, because that shouldn't be any sort of guidance for anybody, because nowadays practice time is a luxury thing, which is very difficult to allow oneself to have. But what did help was that by the time I recorded each of those CDs, part of that program was already in my daily concert repertoire. Parts of those pieces, of course, I had to learn to make up the rest of the cycle to be able to record that. So it was, I would say, it was a combination of repertoire that had been in my fingers for a while, and something new that I had to learn specifically for the occasion. But I guess just some, putting some deadlines up front and just being very strict with them does usually help. Also being realistic, just understanding which days there will not be any chance to practice that particular program, because there will be other concerts, there will be other projects, there will be teaching, there will be rehearsals. Just really trying to be realistic about your goals, and worked really hard.
Yeah. So for each one of those CDs, how much time did it take? I understand that some of this repertoire you've learned well in advance, but from the time you signed and from the time you actually came to the recording studio, how much time passed for each CD?
Well, the transcendental etudes, they were already in my fingers, all of them, by the time I decided to record, and by the time I got the fundings to record those. So I would say, that wasn't a challenge, because they were already in my concert repertoire. Probably, to be realistic, probably actually maybe about half a year from the time when I actually first played them complete to the time when I recorded them. So, but that wasn't a challenge. What was a bigger challenge was, of course, the Prokofiev sonatas, because it's 3 CDs, 3 hours of music, and some of them I had played probably about a half by the time I decided to record, and not much time had passed since I first thought about the project and made some initial inquiries with the recording label and the actual first session. I would say okay, so basically I recorded those 3 CDs in a span of a year. So so I think I started in January 2019, then another one was in June 2019, and then January 2020, if I'm not wrong. That's when I completed that. So, and I only started thinking about that probably in late I know in middle 2018. I would say. So yeah, it really depends on the repertoire, really depends on how much that was already there, really depends whether I came up with a program specifically for the CD or whether it was already in my kind of concert repertoire and in the pipeline. It was a bit harder with Prokofiev than with Liszt because, for example, if there is a concert venue that wants me to play concert, and if I say to them like, oh, do you mind if I include, Liszt Transcendental Etudes, they will of course say, yeah, that's fantastic, go for it. Excellent. If you tell them, oh, do you mind if I throw in like a couple of Prokofiev sonatas? It really depends on the venue. It really depends on the openness of the public. And yeah, because some of them might say, oh, yeah, but but maybe it's a bit too much. Can you actually include some Chopin, maybe Beethoven, maybe something like maybe Rachmaninoff in the worst case? Or if you're like really fond of this repertoire, maybe it's just some very short sonata like number 3, 7 minutes long. And so that was a little bit more difficult for me to actually get myself together, to compose myself and be able to collect that repertoire. Because not many of there were some festivals who were extremely collaborating and who actually supported the idea. There was a festival in which I played 3 Prokofiev sonatas, just like as a solo recital. And that was interesting. No, the public loved it. So actually, once someone opened up to the idea, there was no problem with that. But for some people to actually take on the risk and see whether the public will like it, especially when we are dealing with some elderly public in certain venues, which is also understandable because everybody's different and preferences are different.
What about your own preferences? Like you said, like it took you like around a year to put together all these 3 CDs program. So it means like relatively quickly you can you were adapting yourself to this repertoire. So do you feel like with Prokofiev music, do you feel like at home, like it's it getting to your system like quite easily? And which composers you would have not such a easy relationship with?
Well, thank you very much for not asking this question, which I'm often being asked, like, who's your favorite composer? Because I want to punch someone in the face for that. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not an aggressive person, but just being realistic. Well, I have to say, yes, I feel quite at home with Prokofiev, and his music does resonate with me, as with most of people who have this, whatever Russian, Ukrainian, whatever post-Soviet pianist school. It does sound like a mother tongue. I know some people, they prefer maybe Shostakovich to Prokofiev. Some people are not fond of Prokofiev music, even those who belong to our sort of pianist school. But yes, I do adore his music, and the love for it started very early for me, even from my early age, because it's part of the whole like whatever Russian post-Soviet Ukrainian piano tradition. When younger kids are already introduced to Prokofiev music through his children's pieces, which are very characteristic, very imaginative, and I have a great platform for a young musician to start exploring this area. Prokofiev, I would say Liszt, Chopin, like pretty much all the romantic repertoire I feel quite good with. But it really depends. I mean, when I'm talking about some Baroque and classical pieces, there are some which are just resonating with me, and there is no problem. I feel really at home. There are some others which maybe are a bit harder for me. I just have like a harder relationship. Maybe it's like taken me a longer time. So sometimes it depends on the pieces, I have to say. But I can't say that there is a music of one particular composer that I cannot stand. There are a few pieces, maybe in each of the composers' art that I would say, I'd rather avoid listening to them or playing them, or at least listening to them in some bad interpretation, because they're already like not my favorite ones.
What would be your inclination towards, I don't want to say contemporary composers, because we have a tendency to call all 20th century composers like contemporary, which they are like 100 years ago, it's still contemporary. Like, the second part of 20th century composers, what would be your choice?
Well, I do really like Ligete's music. Yeah, I really do like that. Actually, like from the living composers, I quite love the music of Valentin Silvestrov. It's very nice and atmospheric. Well, there is a great friend who lives in Germany, Alexander Rosenblatt, who writes fantastic jazzy pieces. So I mean, there's actually so much when you think of it, like from this from the second half of 20th century. There are so many directions people took, and it's all contemporary music, but you cannot pin it down, because when you're talking about, let's say, like Wiener Klassiker tradition, you can see, okay, the composers, they are also writing very different music, but you can still see the influence of the era, of the style, of the epoch. But it's not anymore the case when we are talking about like really contemporary music of, let's say, the past 70 years, because it's been pulled in all directions.
Yeah, that's true. So I think Antonia also has some questions to ask you. Let's pass it to her.
First of all,
it's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah.
First of all, I want to thank you to be with us today. For me, it's a huge pleasure to have you, Dinara, here at SM with us. And I wanted to ask you one specific question. I assume that over the years, you were accumulating experience as a pianist during practicing, for example, and in order to obtain greater result with a lesser investment in time. Then how do you use the remaining time, taking off the teaching activity, taking off the practicing activity? How do you invest your spare time, your remaining time?
If I'm lucky into sleeping, I have to say, because that's what it comes down to.
I wanted to say, do you invest in personal growth? Yes, sleeping is personal growth because you are regenerating yourself. Yes, of course.
Yeah, well, I mean, London is great. It is a great city to go to concerts, to museums, to actually even to social events. I have to say that the average educational level of a public that we get here, even the public that are not extremely musical, is pretty high. So it's always interesting to even interact with those people, even if they are just asking questions, even if they are not quite familiar with what you do and how you do that. The way they ask questions actually makes you think in a different way, and maybe also talking to people from different professions and different circles also does improve my understanding of the world. I have to say also, I moved here, what is it now, over 10 years ago, and those first few years were quite painful for me, just because my whole understanding and perception of reality of society was changing quite a bit. I think it was all the good changes, to be honest, because I feel also in a better place, also psychologically and socially. But I remember that gave me quite a bit of, I don't want to use the word growth again, because I think everything's so relative, but that was quite a big shift. And that didn't even, that didn't even require me to do anything specifically. It's just being in a different society, speaking a different language, interacting with different people, with a bunch of diverse different people, that did result into, I don't know, in some shift. Let's put it this way. I mean, I'd like to think of it as a growth, but things
I
are
agree 100% with what you said. It's fantastic. It's, I think, magical. Realizing how changing your background, your context, your social, your life, your environment can be so powerful in your personal evolution. I mean, it's a huge shift. It's life changer. Yeah, this is.
This cultural shock that you experience, and it wasn't even. I know for many people who came to live and study in London, it was about moving to a big city. For me, it wasn't the case, because I had studied in Moscow for 11 years prior coming to London. So I came from a big city, and I originally come from Kharkiv, which isn't a small town itself. So it wasn't that really. It wasn't like that all of a sudden I got an access to things that I had not seen in the past. But it's just a different society, different way of doing things, different pace of doing things, I have to say. It really, how things roll here is pretty different to how they roll in that part of the world. And I remember it was very painful at the beginning for me, because even simplest things would take so much effort from me, and I was getting very tired. Yeah.
What do you mean specifically?
No, but just whatever. Like even when you act in the society, somehow you get very tired from like even like little things because of the flow of the information that comes your way. Because it's not only the language, but it's also how people behave, how they conduct themselves, what they expect from you, how do you greet people. I mean, it's always it's common sense pretty much in every culture, like to greet people, to be kind and stuff. But how exactly to do it? Yeah, exactly. Like you start watching yourself in a totally different way, because I think it was one of the biggest educational moments to me, which was actually not connected with any specific institution, even though I came to study here, but this particular change actually taught me a lot of things.
And did you remember the specific moment in which you realized that you have found your balance in this new environment?
I'm still trying to find it, but I think it was very interesting.
I love it.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I mean, it's a very interesting question. I remember once, I don't remember how many years I had stayed in London by then, probably maybe 5 years or something. I was entering the tube station, Oxford Circus, which is like very busy, very confusing. And there was someone who was lost and was asking for directions, and I was able to point that person at the right direction. And then there was another lady who also joined and also tried to enhance my response and help further. And then she started asking me, hey, where are you coming from? How long have you been here? And I answered her, and she said, well, from now onwards, you are a real Londoner because you actually help someone to find the way. And I felt like, hold on a minute. Yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at it. It's like, it means like I'm really isolating myself there. Exactly.
Yeah. I can understand which kind of feeling you had when you were in this new, complete environment. I remember there is a Michael Jackson song that I love. That is "Stranger in Moscow." The feeling, yeah. Can you imagine?
I know exactly what you mean.
I know,
especially when I didn't know how to read in Russian.
Exactly. Don't. You cannot speak the language. You cannot read anything. You are completely isolated in a new environment, and you cannot interact. This kind of alienating feelings. It's weird,
Easily.
And getting used to it, trying to find your way to, interact, creating your point of references, new point.
Yeah, and actually stopping worrying that you look stupid, because yes, you do look stupid. So what? Like, how to learn?
To be great, we have to be fool, like, to look stupid. It's normal. It's a
part of improvement. Yeah, exactly. That's how you get the feedback.
Exactly. I wanted to ask you also one more question. I know it can sound a little bit controversial, but what is your personal concept, your personal opinion of the concept hard work? Do you have, for example, any tips to increase your productivity during your practice, or it was something that you consistently built over the year?
Well, I have to say that it has changed for me a little bit. Like right now, very often I have to work towards a specific deadline, which means that I don't have heaps of time for certain things. And that keeps me quite motivated if I know that, okay, fine, whatever, I have to learn this concerto in, okay, let's say 2 weeks. These are the days I can practice. These are the days I'm teaching, and there is no way I can practice. So just to keep things structured, to have like real estimations as to how long it takes you to learn a particular piece, and if there is something difficult, not to hesitate to break it down into like simpler breaks and just to take it from there, because that's what I also always do with my students who sometimes struggle with something big. I just said like, look, just break it down into very small things, into like even bars, like practice like hands separately, practice voices separately. Once you understand the principle of that, it will be so much easier to compose it together. So it's just, I think it's very important to, like, once you come to the instrument, what's most important is not the amount of hours you actually spend there, of course, but the result. So what's important, ideally, you should come to an instrument when you've slept well and then you're feeling all right, because then your productivity does increase quite dramatically. Yeah, and it's important to actually just dedicate full concentration to that moment. So the best is to think, okay, fine, even if you have like a free day, but you come to the piano, just say, okay, fine, like I'm gonna do 2 hours now, and that's it. Let me just make the most of these 2 hours, rather than just try to stretch this time with, forever. There's quite a bit of practice happens of the instrument as well, because it's I'm pretty sure everybody here agrees that once you played some piece of music and then you attended to your different things, you still keep rolling the same melodies, the same passages in your head, and that's what actually makes it much easier for you to exactly, it's processing. And then you come back to the piano maybe the next day, and it's there, it's cooked, and it's more solid, it's more safe already, and you can move on to some different things.
Exactly. This is very interesting because it's a dynamic that we know, but when we are young, in my personal experience, for example, I realized the power of this mechanism, let's say, quite late. You are so stubborn, you want to work hard and say they're practicing. You cannot realize how powerful is the resting, the rest, and that your brain is still processing information. So also if you are away of the instrument, this is very powerful.
It's important.
Where is the do you remember the moment in your personal growth as a pianist in which you realized that is a matter of quality time in practice?
Well, I was always told that by my teacher, so thank God. Yeah, I mean, let's say during my teenage, I was able to do more quality plus quantity practice. Now it's like now I'm trying to actually hit the quality as much as I can, because with the quantity, there is still only 24 hours a day, unfortunately. But I think it was always with me, because I was lucky to have good teachers who wouldn't be selling any nonsense to me ever. So that wasn't the problem. But I have to say that of course it was easier when I could direct all my thoughts towards actually improving my playing, or not just studying, because now when you teach, it's a lot about giving. There's very little time which you must make for yourself, that you can actually benefit from the new knowledge coming your way. I mean, you constantly do also from your students, but sometimes it's just good to create a little bit of the vacuum when it's both time and the personal mindset, when you are in the mood to actually just take on some new information, some new some new wind blowing your way.
Dinara, can you give the pianists in the audience some tips about how they can improve the quality of their practicing, of the hours that they practice?
Yeah, well, turn their phone off. That's the first thing. Yeah, I think one of those. Yeah, and just be realistic. Try to really understand what comes out of the fingers, because a lot of it is just it's listening to yourself and to really estimating whether what you do is to the top quality, and not to move to the next bar up until one is already fixed. I mean, it's good to also have a global view on things, but once you have that, just do a lot of donkey work, do a lot of slow practice, a lot of analyzing. I think that's very important. And then I think
mindfulness, essentially.
Mindfulness.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You mentioned slow practice, and any other, even if there's something that seems simple, it might be a small trick, something that over the years you've realized is actually more important than it would seem. Anything like that? Any strategies or tricks like that?
Well, I can't say that there are any new ones, but I would say, practice your left hand always. Practice voices separately. Sometimes even, let's say, if a right hand has 2 or 3 voices played together, break it down and play it with 2 hands, just, to understand the pairing of the voices, to understand how the phrases interact with each other. Sing the melodies, that's an old one, but it does really help to understand where the phrasing goes. Just look into the scores. I'm not saying that I would absolutely faint if someone plays something which is not exactly a reflection of what's written in the score. But on the other hand, it has a lot of interesting things in it. Don't underestimate the fingerings written by the editors. I mean, you can all. That's a funny thing. I used to absolutely disregard those as a kid.
Consider in the first time,
Yeah,
Consider.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, now I changed a lot of them, definitely, but now I realize how helpful they actually are in most cases. But that comes with when you start playing chamber music, and there is like, you get an edition where there are like no fingerings whatsoever, and you need to work fast, because chamber music, it's mainly played with the score, and then you get handy, even if there are some fingerings which are driving you a bit mad. You feel how helpful it is to actually have some indications of those. It just speeds up the process, speeds up the logic of thinking. So what else did I not mention? Okay, singing left hand. Yeah, slow practice, that's my favorite, I have to say.
Are you used to with the concept of mental practice? Are you used to practice away from the instrument?
Well, it's good sometimes, but it's good sometimes, especially if let's say, if you practice some piece for a period of time and you already know some impediments in that, and your possibilities. Yeah, okay, fine, I cannot play this quicker than this, or I cannot play this brighter than this. That's the test, that's my physics. But sometimes it's good to take a step back, look into the scores, imagine how that would have sounded if you had another set of 10 fingers, for example, if you had an indefinite power, indefinite muscles, or indefinite resilience and stuff, and just to say, okay, fine, that's how I want it to sound. Unfortunately, I'm not yet there, but let me try to work towards it. But just not to mock the feeling of what you actually want from this music.
Okay, this is amazing, really.
I think these tips can be very useful. In the past, there was one that Anna shared that I think was very interesting. She talked about the fact that people should, of course, record themselves while they're performing. But specifically, she said you can place your phone on both ends of the keyboard to record yourself from both of these perspectives. And I just thought that was such a small detail, but a very significant one. And I think that
from
audiences can take home.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, recording, I remember that helped me quite a bit when I first got my first recording device in my, mid-teens. That changed quite a bit about my perception, because of course what we hear when we play, because we also when we play we move, so now perception does not really reflect what the audience normally hears. You need to calibrate your feeling to what actually comes out of your fingers, and that's the easiest by recording yourself, because you may be thinking you are not doing an accent here, but you actually are, because you just your body moves in such a way that it's hard to avoid it, and you just don't realize that, but apparently you do that and you don't want it there. So that's how you calibrate your feelings to
How would you help your students to prepare for a recording? For example, let's say, there are so many requirements for competitions. Usually you have to record a program, but let's put it aside. Let's just imagine that one of your students is going to record a CD. So what would be your recommendation for the day of the recording? I mean, for the preparation, it can be it can vary, but on the day of the recording, would you advise to first record the most difficult things, so you keep the easiest one for the dessert? Or you would rather just to feel the flow, just record everything that you want to deal with, and then hit that the most difficult one?
Well, I think it's very individual. What I tend to do is I tend to start with a piece I feel quite comfortable with, just to already know what I have to be aiming for. So I wouldn't start the session with something that I'm a little bit freaking out about, because then it sets the whole mood into a different sort of perspective. So I start with something which I'm quite acquainted and comfortable with. And then, when my spirits are already up, then I go to something which is difficult for me, because I still have more energy and I'm still very determined to get it the way I want to get it. And I have to say, but because there is a bit less pressure during the recording, because if there is something that is not up to your and you can always repeat that, it's actually quite a great process, and it makes you go for it, make it count, basically. Yeah, you can just go a bit more extreme, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. They just scrap the stake and it's gonna be fine. And I have to say, I think I'm the best practiced at the very end of the recording process, because then you repeat it quite a few times, and you are much more daring. And that's mainly, it's during those days which I realized how I actually wanted things, because my concentration works to the very top of it. pianos are usually good during the recording sessions, so you can also just go for things that you wouldn't go when you practice on your upright at home. And another thing is that then you can hear it back, and with the good recording equipment, usually and with the good engineer, it actually sounds better than in the room. So you actually feel like, oh my god, it's like a little filter together on Instagram.
I'm amazing, really.
Okay, and it inspires you. It actually inspires you, because when you hear some recording of yourself, it can be like a very decent playing, but if you record yourself on some some simple whatever phone or something, that may discourage you, because you hear it back and it sounds so distorted, sounds so weird. It was just, oh my god, it's such a rubbish, like how people can hear this, how can they listen to that? But when you actually hear yourself playing on a good piano, recorded on a good equipment, that makes you fly in a sense.
Can you give an example what is difficult for you?
Or so many things, but you just have to cope with them.
Because when you say something difficult, I would like to know what it is.
Dinara, just...
No, aspetta. Falla rispondere.
Yes, I would like to add something to this question.
Oh, okay.
So she's asking you, can you tell us what is difficult for you? This is the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, during the last community call, we were talking about the right repertoire that a student should practice. For the audience, for those who don't know what is a right repertoire, let's do an example. For example, a tenor cannot sing what a baritone is singing, or a soprano. So every singer has his repertoire. Do you think that such a thing exists also for pianists?
I think it can exist for the pianist, but when it comes to students, depends of course on their age and proficiency. It's good for them to try themselves in different repertoire. So I will give you an example. I come back to the first part of the question in a moment, but I will give you an example that there is a student that I have. I got this person about a year ago, and I figured out that this person wasn't having big enough sound. Let's put it this way, like very sophisticated musician, everything just fine. But I was just wondering, why is that? Why this person is so shy to express themselves? And then I realized that this person barely played any romantic repertoire and barely played any contemporary stuff. So it was mostly just Baroque and classical music. We are talking about someone under 18 years old, let's put it this way. And what I decided to do, I decided to introduce this person to some contemporary repertoire, to some very daring romantic repertoire, even if it wouldn't be there 100%, but just to see what's out there, how it feels to play that, how it feels to play this chord with 10 notes in it, just how it feels on the body weight, just physical. Yeah, and it did help quite a bit, because I think that what it was, it's just that the person was really trying to get it absolutely brilliant in this Baroque and classical style, and wasn't just was rather intimidated to give a little bit more of physical, because this person wanted it very in very finer details of those epochs. But talking about what's difficult for me, well, I have to say that I try not to think about my physicality when I go for some sort of repertoire. For example, Prokofiev sonatas, they are quite physically demanding, and I'm I'm not a big girl. My hand stretch isn't great. It's okay for what it is. It's about a tenth. If I jump, so this is a confident ninth. Let's put it this way. But I just so sometimes I feel oh my god, I wish I had a little. I wish I had half an inch bigger hand or something like that, because it would make my life a bit easier. But I guess we have what we have, and I remember the words of my past teacher who say that there are no small hands, but there are some clumsy ones. So it's just everything's a matter of practice. You can get it right if you really want to.
So this is very important part. We were talking during the last community call about the right repertoire, and we were saying there are some pianists like you, for example, they play certain pieces. They are out of this world. They are, for example, we are talking about these transcendental etudes. They are really, really difficult pieces. But what do you think that everybody can play transcendental etude, for example, people like you? Do you think that only practicing is the solution to achieve this result? Do you think that playing slowly is the only thing that we need to achieve that, that level of playing, or must be some particular gift or some particular talent that particular pianist must have in order to play that piece in such an incredible level?
To give a sports example before you give us your answer, Dinara, I think that what Francesco's saying is, imagine how different athletes, maybe let's consider runners, have a proclivity for different distances, right? So some physiques, some bone structures, etc., are more, they're designed sort of for speed, and so they become sprinters, while others are more designed for distance, and so that they become maybe marathon runners. So do you see maybe something similar happening in the world of music and in performance?
Well, it can certainly happen this way. Yes, I see some people are more inclined towards, like, let's say, like dazzling technique, and maybe even like finger technique. Some people are more inclined towards playing great chord technical stuff. But I have to say that with the right preparation and with a certain mindset and willpower, and with time, I think it's quite interchangeable in most cases.
So you don't believe in these limitations, essentially?
It really depends. If someone if someone started playing the piano at the age of 20 and then maybe all of a sudden decided, okay, fine, in 2 years I want to play transcendental etudes, like that person may be having and that person may be having some difficulties. But with if someone started early and had a good school, like a proper school, doesn't have any tension in their arms, doesn't put any limitations in their own brain towards certain things, I think a lot of things are possible. I'm not saying everything, because I guess it's very individual, and of course there should be some sort of a gift.
Where there is a will, there is a way. Always.
So you think like every 13 years old with the right preparation and will can play fifole?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe
the way you play.
Maybe better.
Go.
So, Dinara,
it's a very empowering philosophy. I love it, really.
Well, I mean, again, like I'm not saying like every, but someone there with the right preparation who started early, who doesn't have any tension in their arms, any tension in their unnecessary tension in their brain, and has time to practice, has access to and also has developed a good taste in music by that age, because there are some people as well who may be, I don't know, having some weird ideas. Yeah,
interesting. I like these conflicting opinions. I think Francesco has a different school of thought. Maybe Francesco, you can tell us a little bit more.
I would like to ask you, Dinara, as a teacher, how do you recommend, do you recommend to your students a particular repertoire, or you just teach that particular piece to the student that is asking you, I would like to play this, Sonata Opus 101 by Beethoven, for example. How do you?
It depends where, yeah. It depends on the student, yeah.
But how do you observe it, the students? How do you choose what are the characteristics what do you look into a student before you choose the piece?
Well, I ask their preference definitely as to what composer they want to play, as to what their favorite pieces are. It doesn't mean that I will say, okay, fine, you want to play your whatever Opus 101 and you're going to do this big, for example, someone would say, okay, I never played any Beethoven sonatas, but I want to play 101 right away. I would probably say, okay, well, let's wait a little bit, let's do something else. But at least I will already know the preferences and the taste of that particular person. I think it's important to create a balance between given the person to play something that he or she wants to play and something that would be actually very beneficial for the person in general. But it depends on the age, it depends on the proficiency of the student. So like some people they just walk to me that don't have any preference and just say, okay, just can you recommend me something, and then start recommending, and maybe I start just asking, okay, either this or that, and they may say, oh, I'm sorry, but I actually hate Schumann. I was like, okay, I never say this like this, but okay, let's go for Chopin this time. So yeah, it really depends. But I mean, I tend to encourage people to play quite a bit of Bach, because it's a very good treadmill for the brain, either way, whether the person advances far in it, or whether the person actually plays it well, or whether the person likes it or not. I think it's just a very good exercise. It's like a puzzle, just like an anti-Alzheimer exercise for everybody.
Dinara, also during the last I think 2 times to community calls
back
or yes,
ago.
I
Two
was
community schools ago.
yeah, I was talking about the educational system. And so also, how do we choose the repertoire? If you are choosing the repertoire because we are required as to be a professional pianist to play all kind of music, all repertoire. Do you think that a musician should, instead of trying to play everything, to choose one particular I don't know, field, one particular kind of music in order to build a brand? Because there is the risk that we are creating in academies, conservatories, or universities, not artists anymore, but employees.
I
So
see what you mean, yeah.
what do you think about?
I think when you're studying, when you're, let's say, in your teens and stuff, it's important to try different things. And then you can narrow yourself down, because we know examples in in the piano careers of certain people that they just did narrow themselves down to a particular repertoire, era, or or even a composer, and that became like their brand. But on the other hand, I don't know. I wouldn't want to encourage it, to be honest. If it becomes one thing, if someone is, let's say, just absolutely amazing in Mozart, but maybe Chopin is not their thing, let's imagine there is such a case, then absolutely, yeah, just go for it, just play Mozart, it's absolutely fantastic. But I wouldn't want one to just, graduate from your school or something, think, okay, fine, from now onwards, I'm only playing Brahms, that's it, it actually works well for me, and let me just stick to that. I think it's important to try
it has
different
to be
things.
sincere, in your opinion, something that grows naturally.
Yeah, but if there is a certain connection that is being built, I mean, when you see it nowadays, you said, you said Brahms, you think Radulupa right immediately. It doesn't mean that he didn't play anything else. Yeah, but it's just you just know that there was like very specific connection made and happens there. It does happen quite a bit, but I think it's important when you're still, when you're still studying, it's important to know how it feels to play those pieces. Plus, as we know, someone who learns a piano performance doesn't mean that person will never become a teacher. And in order to be able to teach, you need to know the feeling. Because your student may be okay, but maybe you are inclined, you have an inclination to Brahms, but your student may be really loving the music by Schoenberg. How are you going to teach that if you never try this yourself? Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry for interrupting you. I know that this is not my space, but considering what you said in this moment, I want to ask you one specific question. If you could go back in time with a time machine, what would you change in your academic path? Something that the academic system didn't teach you, but you had to learn by yourself.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. So, I mean, definitely what I would recommend in the educational system, I would recommend a bigger inclination towards languages. At least that's not what I got. Yeah, some sort of economics, just basics, just to even know how to file the tax returns, because that's something that that stresses me out quite a bit these days. The basics of maybe entrepreneurship, just to know how things work, because just to know how things even in musical or any other world operate. Maybe also some introduction to other musical genres except for the classical, because at the end we are just a small chunk of the whole huge music industry. Like this sort of thing, this sort of practical skills.
So let's say we have a good teacher, we have a good pianist. The pianist learns all kind of analysis, all kind of history, all kind of theory, all kind of repertoire, etc., etc., etc. At the end, during the graduation, good luck. Go and find a job. How do you think a young pianist should survive? I would like to say a very, very funny, I don't know if it actually is funny, story to explain this thing. Let's say I graduate from the conservatory or university. I take all A's, all incredible points, whatever you want. I need to find a job. So I want to play concerts. Okay, I send all my emails, CV, programs. Nobody wants me to play. Okay.
Nobody replies.
No, nobody replies. Exactly. They say we already the concert season is booked. Nothing to do. Okay, maybe I do some competition. Not good idea. Okay, maybe I can go and teach. Yes, too many teachers. The money that I can make is really little. So okay, not good option. The rent is too high. I can go and play in a bar, some music. Okay, I go to play in a bar, and I ask to the owner of the bar, can I? Do you need a pianist to entertain here? Yes. What kind of music you can play? Can you play? I play Bach, Mozart, Chopin, Beethoven. No. We don't need this kind of music. We need something more, soft. Okay, we will let you know. There is nothing to do. I see that there is a circus. the story is not about me, but let's say a pianist.
Story.
That there is a circus in the town. So, maybe I can find a job. I go to the director of the circus. I say, please, I need the job. I'm starving. I need to play. Do you have a position? No, we don't have even the orchestra. We're using the recordings. So, but do you have any kind of job that I can apply for? Yes, maybe you can be a tight walker.
No, tight rope.
Tight rope walker. How to Nicola? Correct?
Yeah, precisely.
How?
Tight rope.
Tight rope walker.
Exactly. Okay. During the day of the show, the pianist jumps on the rope and starts to go up and up and up and up. Looks down, there is a tiger. He gets super scared. He fall out of balance and fall. The tiger, instead of eating the instead of the pianist jumps and saves the pianist. And the pianist says, "But why did you save me?" Don't worry, I'm also a pianist.
I'm
pianist too.
So
there's another pianist that was wearing the
costume of a tiger
and working in a circus.
So my question is, what do you think about the educational system? Do the educational system prepare the students for the real life, and especially in the digital era? What do you think?
I think the best they do now at the current is they prepare good professionals. I think that's the best case scenario. The worst is when neither they give any sort of understanding on career development, nor they actually prepare good professionals, because then those people who think that, okay, they study all these hours, but once they graduate, they're gonna get some job in life, like their non-artistic friends, they are left with nothing, because there will be even some better professionals, and they're pretty much jobless, and they realize that they paid all those university or whatever school fees, and there is no way for them to earn, unfortunately. So it's a very competitive and a very cruel world, I have to say, for those who just graduate and who are trying to find their career path. I think it's a mixture of luck and it's a mixture of luck and also hard work.
The thing that I don't understand, Dinara, is that we are thinking about all kind of subjects that are super important. Yes, of course, theory is important. It's important. The contrapunto is important. Composition, everything is important.
Yeah.
But why do you think entrepreneurship, social media, all these kind of things that are super, how to build a network, how to build a relationship with others, is not taught in academies? I think
it's being started now. I think it's being started, and this is really This is great that it is that way. But I have to say, I wouldn't really underestimate. Okay, so let's put it this way: I studied in Center Music School in Moscow, where all this, the harmony and musical history and everything was taught to the very high level, and I was the top student for those subjects. And even though I understand that maybe, okay, I may not remember everything I was taught back then, but on the other hand, now, like what it did develop, developed some sort of new neuron connections in my brain. So it makes me perceive the music like a language. So when people walk to me and ask, oh, how do you remember all these billions of notes? For me, it's like a language because for me, it makes sense. Once you've studied your music history, music theory, you just know how things roll. You know, like what brick comes after the previous one, because that's, it's more like a flowing thing that makes sense to you. So I wouldn't really underestimate that. Would I want to spend the amount of hours I spent on that if I had a choice? Probably I would have cut it down a little bit, but I don't regret studying those things, to be very honest, because it did build a better understanding of music for me.
Absolutely.
Would I want to study more entrepreneurship and social media and understanding how to network with people, like whatever is being taught, maybe also like on the side of MBA courses? Yes, I would love to know that, because I had to learn it in a harder way.
Yeah, what you say, Dinara, it's absolutely. I agree 100% that you say. I'm happy that I was studying all this subject because I have a good understanding. Yes, the problem is that we are thinking only about the product, how to create the product. We are thinking about the burger only about the burger, but we are not thinking about how to deliver this burger, how to give this burger to the client. So that's a disaster. So I want to ask you one thing. You're saying now we are starting in universities to teach these kind of things. But as we look at now the world, how it's changing constantly, this is a kind of education they are trying now. They are trying to teach how to use social media. But now we are going to the Web 3.0. to the Web 4.5.0, and it's moving so fast. So the education that is taught in universities is always already old. Yes.
So I think just to initiate the direction is already good, because, for example, if you I think it's mostly this. Let me tell you, when I was, let's say, a teenager, the attitude that I was encouraged by my, let's say, teachers and also like my mother would be, okay, you do your job, you play well and stuff, the rest will come to you. It's important to know that the rest will not come. Unlikely. I mean, if you're lucky, it may still. I'm not saying that, but the rest may not come, even if you're like absolutely brilliant, because if there is nobody to hear you, how it's going to come. So it's very important to not to have that expectation that if you don't dig, it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. You need to also know how to reach out. What will be the means of reaching out? And I don't know, even in a year or two, we don't know. But I think it's important to develop this attitude, just to know that, part of it, I mean, it's important that your product is good, but you also need to understand that you need to deliver to consumers, just as you said.
It's a part of our job. I mean, for example, let's talk about social media. Social media, do you think that a musician should learn how to use social media instead of being used by social media?
It's important to know how it works. I would have to say it's very interesting. On the other hand, it's also, I know it's quite addictive. I know quite a few people who are, let's say, they just found their way with social media, and they are, I don't know, there are some people who are like influencers now, of course, and they have like many hundreds, thousands of subscribers, which is absolutely great. There are people who maybe are less popular, but they are still these things that they influence. But unfortunately, I see also the other direction. Like they think that they are influencing these things, but on the other hand, they already became like the slaves of the whole system.
I mean, yes, of course.
Yeah. So it's very dangerous. I think it's good to have a balance. But we absolutely have to be on social media, and we have to be reachable. That's really important, but we also have to be careful, because I remember I tried to speak to one person who was constantly on the phone, like who's quite a big music influencer, fantastic musician as well, but I wasn't able to like literally just get an attention of the person during the dinner, like even for a moment, because like this person was constantly on the phone saying, oh, look, yeah, I have news, oh, look what's happening. I was like, oh my god, like, this person's going mad. So It's also there
what I
is
say
that.
to my
It's
students.
a dopamine machine.
Yeah, exactly.
You
So
know what I
supposedly
say to my
just understand.
students? I say you should actually develop a phone addiction, not being a content consumer, but
No,
a
but-
content creator. So if a musician understand that nowadays, if you are not online, you are nobody will see you. So it's time to learn how to deliver your burger to the people. You have to show that you exist, because if you don't show that you exist, there's nothing to do. You cannot expect
because
people
there
to
will be
give you
someone else
money.
showing that they exist, unfortunately, and we have such a flow of information now that it may be difficult for someone. There are some people who are very diligent and they may be willing to dig up for like new names, like some young musicians who are absolutely fantastic but who are not on the platform. But there are so few of those very diligent people in the audience, and most of them would just go for something which is equally good, let's put it this way, but also widely available. So why would they want to dig in for anything else?
So
Yeah, that's true.
I know that it can be a little bit, I'd say, intimidating, this fact of, I know I want only to practice, I don't want to pay attention to other things. Somebody will come and bring me to the stage. This thing it's not going to happen, guys. So what is really important is that you need to learn not how to use social media, but how to adapt yourself to changings. If you don't develop this skill of this spiritual power inside yourself to move, I want to say bad word, to move yourself out of your comfort zone, that even staying and practicing is a comfort zone. You have to start to understand how to speak new languages.
It's like your shelter.
Exactly. To speak new languages, go out and meet people. Now, I mean, guys, it's really strange. There is a story I already told about this story, but let's say again. I was recording one of my colleagues, and I had this camera. Okay, this camera is pretty expensive, right? And they say, but I asked to them, but why do you spend so much money? Why don't you buy a camera?
Oh, you asked them. Why don't you
Yes,
buy a
I
camera?
asked them, why don't you buy a camera instead of spending so much money to be recorded? Because it's too expensive. Just a second. Do you think that I spent even 1 cent to buy this camera? And how did you pay it? You are paying it. So, do you see that there is a sort of mental cage in our mindset as a musician? So we think only that we have to do this. We are not thinking about finding solution. How can I find the money to finance my project? How can I build relationship of people with people they believe in me? They believe in my ideas. How can I finance a CD, for example? How can I finance a concert in Carnegie Hall? How can I find $20,000 to I don't know, to rent the most incredible concert hall of my dreams?
Royal Albert Hall.
Yes, nowadays you can do everything if you understand that. How to communicate with people. When you say selling, I'm selling an idea. People there is this misconception that selling is a bad thing. No, selling is you are presenting your dreams to others and asking them to believe in you. So in the school, in the university and college, they don't teach you this thing, and I believe that is super, super important. So guys, go and question things you've been taught. Take a book, go and read. That's my recommendation.
And sell yourself.
Yes,
sell yourself.
Exactly. Otherwise, nobody will come you and bring you to the stage. So
precisely.
Put your stuff on auction. 1, 2, 3, sold.
Liver sold.
If you study the history of all the greatest inventions, you'll see that every time these inventions were introduced to the public, the reaction was always negative. So people, we have this misconception that if you have an amazing idea, people are going to tell you, oh, this idea is amazing. They're immediately going to accept you and love you. And the answer is no. Even if you have something incredible to share, you still have to sell it. because that initial reaction is all by the public is always going to be a rejection. And you know, there's other examples of this as well. You can just name best-selling book X that was rejected however many times by all the publishing houses, etc. It's always like this. You have to fight to sell what you have that is amazing and valuable. It's not just a matter of creating an amazing product and all the gigs will come, right? No, they're not going to come to you. You have to go to them, and in fact, you're going to have to press them. You're going to have to work hard to get your work out there.
There is an amazing book that I'm not paid to advertise this book, but I want to.
Well, you should be.
I want to recommend this book to musicians here that are listening to us. The title is really strong. That says the title is "Sell or Be Sold" by Grant Cardone. Sell or be sold. It's what we are living now. Or you sell your ideas, or you work for somebody else. I mean, you work to make other people's dream true.
Others' dreams come true. Yeah.
Others people's dreams come true. Yeah.
Exactly.
You're either prey or predatory, man. Yeah, so it's better to take the role that suits you the best.
Yeah, that's true. Well, but it is true that there are many times, many cases when, because we are creative people, like musicians, they are very creative, and we have a lot of ideas besides, you know, how to play a certain piece. We also have ideas like how to put the program together, what this program means to us, and how to make it interesting for the audience. But we very often we are like too busy preparing that program, so we delegate that, you know, that task to somebody else, that somebody else will, you know, present our program for us. If we are lucky, then you know, it can happen, and you know, some sensitive people will, you know, wrap that product for us. But it happens very rarely, so we really have to be also you know, presenters of the program or the project or whatever we are presenting. Or say we came up with the idea of festival. What do we know of, you know, how to found a festival? We have no idea, like where to find the sponsors, how to approach them, how to write a plan, you know, how to you know, communicate with people that are not musicians.
How to find a team that is going to help you, because everybody has $1 million idea, but no
strategy.
Not everybody knows how to make this idea real, and to make your dream come true, you need a team. And to have a team of people, they believe in you, you must go and sell your idea to them. So how to sell it, how to learn these skills? Go and find a book. You have Google, you have YouTube. Nobody can stop you, only your mental cage can stop you. So I have nothing to say more.
Wow.
What do you think, Dinara? What do you think?
Well, I think that, yeah, I agree with the above, but also there is one thing which comes with our culture of being classical musicians. We are being, for the good, of course, to improve, we are being criticized from the very beginning, and we learn how to criticize ourselves, and it's not welcomed in our circles to brag about oneself and to be happy about one's performance. We are very highly critical of ourselves, and I guess that's also part of the mental cage. So whilst we should be critical when we sit by the piano, when it comes to, you know, when there is someone, let's say, even interested in what we do, and when we actually come to deliver our product and, you know, to build new connections, I think we should really know how to reach out.
You know, I was always when I was little, I was always like very surprised when, on my question, like, how did you play? Someone would say, well, I play well.
Yeah, and exactly. Saying, oh my God, how dare you?
Oh my God, you played well, what? It's like, what do you think about yourself? But actually, with age, I now understand that those are the healthiest people.
Yeah,
because like you can be as critical as you want to yourself, but never say to others about your problems. Like it's your kitchen.
It's not just about saying to others. Also, your self-speech is very important. how to talk with yourself. Your inner speech is very important. Yeah.
Mhm. Because I always would reply to this question, well, I didn't play well, or I didn't play as well as I wanted to play, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and 95% of people in the public would not have noticed any difference between you playing super well and you playing not super well.
Exactly. That's the most painful part. That's the most painful part. I know.
Very well. Nada, thank you for sharing your thoughts and experiences. I particularly enjoyed the way you talked about the experience of moving to London. I agree with you in saying that putting yourself in a new environment, one that will challenge you, one where everything is quote unquote alien, is an experience everyone should go through to grow and to reach one's full potential. As always, thank you everyone in the audience for watching, listening, and subscribing. We hope you enjoyed this Salon de la Musique live community call, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Before we wrap up, a word from our sponsors.